All right, I am Black Angel. Welcome back to the Healer University Energetic Healing course. Tonight we're going to be doing a class on pendulums. We're going to do like an introductory to pendulums and learn how to use them to receive like yes and no answers. Use them to close portals because that's going to be a piggyback off the last class. Now, just to give you a heads up, once we finish the 4-part energetic healing in this course, then we're going to go back into pendulums again because one class is going to be dealing with using pendulums for divination, and we'll go deeper into using divination as in not just yes and no answers, but using number charts, using letter charts, also finding lost items, using the pendulum to find the source of a problem, whether it be like energy in the body or any like health. So we're gonna go deeper into that in the energetic healing part, okay? So today we wanna like identify what a pendulum is and how to prepare ourselves in using them and being able to use it to just find some simple yes or no answers or even some confirmations, which is what I probably use my pendulum the most for is for confirmation. And so we want to go over that today and prepare y'all for divination and healing when we get to that part. So at this time, I'm going to ask everyone to take a deep breath and we're going to start with grounding. Remember, breathing in the nose and out the mouth with intentions, breathing in positivity, exhaling negativity, and you can also add your own intentions into that breathing, okay? So as we breathe deeply, I command at this time that we're all connected to the earth vortex, allowing us to be grounded. Also command that we're connected to the divine light vortex, our crown. And I'm also going to command that our energies be stabilized. Ashe. All right. So since we're going to be working with pendulums, just like when you do any type of spiritual work, you want to always call in your spiritual support team or your divine support team, but with whatever you want to name these group of energies, angels, ancestors that will support you on your mission, right? I would like to call them in for divine protection to prevent any external forces or external energies interfering with the session. And we also want to ask them to, again, guide us in this session as well. So let's take a brief moment, allowing our divine support team to come and place their divine protection around us individually, and let us feel their presence. Ashe. All right. Hopefully you all starting to feel that cool breeze, that cool energy of your divine support team coming in to let you know they're here and they're ready to work with you at this time. Now, before doing any type of divination work or using your divination tools, you always want to make sure you prep the space you're going to be working in and also prep yourself, your own physical body. Your physical body, I like to always look at as the first divination tool. So in this course today, in this class today, we're going to go over even using the physical body as a pendulum itself, right? So we've got to prep this body before using this pendulum because the pendulum, the way I've always seen it, is just, it's an extension of yourself. Any divination tool that you use with your hands or any other parts of your body, it's an extension of what's already inside of you. So you have to make sure you're ready to use that extended tool to do your divination for accuracy. So in prepping your space, a few things you can do is you can start with sage. A lot of times before I get started, I like to get me some sage and just kind of let the smoke go where it's needed around my area. If you don't have sage, you can also use selenite. A selenite stick can also cleanse a space as well. And we just want to use sage to remove any residual negative energies that may be around. California white sage will transmute negative energy to positive. And that's how the cleansing works with that particular herb. Okay, so we prepare our space also by making sure that we are away from maybe any strong electronics that can draw a magnet to your pendulum, because it is kind of like a magnetic field that we're using when we use our divination tool, right? So we want to also make sure our hands are clean, because again, we're touching something that we're divinating with. So our hands should be clean so it can be free of like any residual energies of things we've been touching all day, or people we might have touched, or even just, you know, places we might have been. So our hands can collect residual energies. So one way you can remove the residual energies is using your hands and doing like a sweeping motion over your aura. Simply just taking your hands and starting from the top, just kind of sweeping down the aura with the intentions of removing any residual energies that doesn't belong to you. Do that at least 3 times. All right, so let's take a moment. Again, you want to start above the crown chakra, above the head, right? You want the hands to be inward, and with the intentions that as you sweep down, that you are cleansing your energetic field and your auras of all residual energies and any energies that doesn't belong to you. As I bring my hands down in front of me, once I get down to the waist, I turn them outwards with the intentions that I'm sweeping away these energies that doesn't serve me and that doesn't belong to me. Now, you can use the same technique with your space. I'm taking my hands with the intentions of removing all residual energies in my space that is not needed, that is not mine, that may interfere with this session. And as you wipe away or swipe away or whoosh away these residual energies, you should start to feel much lighter in the space that you are in. Okay. Now, the other thing we need to do in prepping is making sure we're in the right mental space. Remember, this is a divination tool, so it's going to act based on what is inside of us already. So if our moods are very low vibrations, if we're angry, we're frustrated, if we're not feeling well, if we are feeling anxious and have a lot of anxiety, you know, these things will show up in your readings. So we want to make sure that anytime we're doing any type of divination, that we are in high spirits. So we want to take time to make sure our vibrations are high so that we don't attract lower vibrating energies during our session. So what are some good ways to prepare the body to raise the vibrations for divination? One is going to be breathing, just like we started in the beginning, right? We started with breathing in the nose and out the mouth, okay? One way, another thing that you can add with the breathing is raising the arms as you breathe in and lowering the arms as you breathe out. Not only will this, cleanse your energy, but it'll also raise your vibrations and recharge the body. It'll recharge your body like a battery. So again, I like to just start with my hands down low as I breathe in the nose and out the mouth. Breathe in the nose as you raise and breathe out. Breathe in. Now, as you conducted those breaths by raising and lowering your hands, you may even notice you felt some tingling sensations going on in your hands, which is good because it's letting you know that your electricity, that electric current that runs through our body, like it's ready, it's working. So when I put the pendulum in my hand, I know that my energy is going to flow freely down the pendulum to receive the answer that we're looking for. Okay, now let's talk about prepping the pendulum itself. What is a pendulum, and then prepping it for use for divination. Now, pendulum is simply when you have some sort of string, whether it's a cord, string, chain, some sort of and it don't have to be loose either. It can also be stiff, right? But something that is corded or something that something heavier can be placed at the end of it for the weight distribution as it moves. So that means pretty much almost anything can be a pendulum, right? You can take a string, you can tie a rock at the bottom of it, and that's a pendulum. It just has to be able to swing, right? Now, when we're talking about divination, especially during our spiritual work, right? The type of divination tool we use can make a huge difference in the movement of the pendulum and the type of energies that can or cannot interfere with it. So when I like to use pendulums, I typically like to use like a clear quartz, because the clear quartz can be programmed to be used for any other, intentions, whether it be for healing, whether you want to use your clear quartz for doing readings, or using your clear quartz to do cleansings, right? So clear quartz is really, really good at pendulum work. Also, clear quartz is an amplifier. So if you're doing healing, with the clear quartz, then the energy that you're using is then amplified by the clear quartz as well as it spins. So you can also use pendulums that are longer. They're usually the ones that are longer. I like to use those for healing, especially if you're standing over someone and you're healing their chakras, which we're going to go over that later on in the course when we talk about using the pendulum for healing, right? We're going to go over that. The more shorter pendulums, to me, are better to use when you're doing readings, because you need something short enough that it can make a quick transition when needed. Like now I'm doing this, right? I'm not, I'm the one actually making this pendulum move like this. But you want something short so that can be a quick transition, okay? The longer pendulums, when you're trying to get yes or no answers, you'll notice that the transition of the movement is way too long because it requires a lot more energy to go down to the bottom of the pendulum. So keep that in mind when choosing the type of pendulum, or as far as the length that you want to use for your divination. Now, another thing with pendulum is that you can hold other crystals in the opposite hand that will help you in channeling that crystal energy while doing your divination. One of the best that I was shown in a dream was to use amethyst, to hold a piece of amethyst in the opposite hand that you are holding your pendulum in. That by holding this amethyst, it will provide the protection from the entities and the interference of any energies and entities around you while doing your divination. Amethyst is really good in protection against incubus and succubus energies that like to attach to those who are spiritually gifted, because we have more energy for them to try to suck off of. And so amethyst is a really good to keep for those who do spiritual work, okay? All right. Now, when we talk about storing and cleansing and preparing our pendulum, it's kind of similar to the physical body, but there's some additional things that we can do. One of the ways to keep your pendulum cleansed is keeping it next to selenite. So that means when it's stored, if you store the pendulum with some selenite, the selenite will keep the pendulum cleansed the entire time. So when you're ready to use it, you don't have to worry about going through the cleansing process. It's already ready for you to use. Now, let's say we don't have selenite and we want to cleanse our pendulum before we use it. We want to cleanse it with sage. We can use sage, we can use resins, we can use any type of cleansing that we can burn, and the smoke of the particular herb, we can use that smoke to cleanse the crystal and the pendulum itself. Here we go. Now, as you look at my pendulum, it starts to do this little bobbling motion. And as it's doing that bobbling motion, it's letting me know that it is ready to go. And then it gives me a yes, which we're going to talk about calibration soon, letting me know that it is cleansed. Okay. Another way to cleanse your pendulums is placing them in a bowl of sea salt. Place them in a bowl of sea salt. And the sea salt will draw any impurities from the pendulum. Okay. It'll draw on any residual energies, any negative energies, and it'll just completely transmute and transform those energies to something light and positive. Himalayan salt is good, or just some regular old sea salt, the cheap version from your local grocery store. It does not have to be expensive. You just want to use sea salt versus table salt. Okay. Another way to cleanse your pendulum is by blowing on it. So crystals itself can be cleansed through breath. So when you have the intentions to look at, when you look at the crystal, or in this case, the entire pendulum, with the intentions that when I blow, I am cleansing it. I am blowing any residual energies, any attachments to my pendulum. I want my pendulum to be completely clear of any energies that don't belong to me. And then when you blow, you have to have confidence that when you did that, it's cleansed. And sometimes you can even feel the change of the energy of the pendulum after you blow on it. You can feel it actually get lighter, or maybe you'll feel some tingling in your hand, kind of letting you know that it's being cleansed. So blowing on your pendulum and your crystals is another major effective way to cleanse them. Now, I wouldn't recommend cleansing your pendulums with water, even though most crystals you can cleanse with water, not all, but most. Usually if you have some type of chain or rope, you don't want to get it wet. You don't want your chain to rust, or you don't want your rope to lose its integrity and then eventually snap, right? So I would recommend not using water, running water over your pendulum to cleanse it. Okay, at this time, before we go into the next segment, is there any questions on what a pendulum is, how to prep it, how to prep yourself? Is there any additional that you want to add to prep yourself and your space before using your pendulum? Go ahead and unmic and talk to us. I guess no one has any questions. All right, good stuff. All right, so we're going to go ahead then and move forward, and we are going to talk about calibration. So in calibrating your pendulum, that means we're setting what we want as a yes, a no, a maybe, a rephrase. And so we want to make sure that pendulum moves, giving us the answer to our question by a certain direction of movement. So starting with calibration, we're going to start with first attuning the pendulum to ourselves. A very simple way is taking the pendulum, placing it in the hand, and you can speak into it, right? Speak into it. It's a divination tool. It's a talisman, yours. So you can speak that this pendulum should be used for you and only you, and no one else has control over it but you. You speak that any energies, feelings, emotions, and any attachments to this pendulum be fully released, because we are dealing with a crystal in this pendulum, so it can hold feelings and emotions, in case you didn't know that. Okay, we want to speak that this pendulum be attuned to us, to yourself. I attune my pendulum to me for my highest good, Ashe. This is allowing us to become one with the pendulum. Because remember, it's an extension of us when we're using it. So people like to ask, well, what makes the pendulum move? Who's moving it? Who's making it go? Well, it's you. It's your own higher self. We ask a question, the divine gives our higher self the answer, and then our higher self makes the motion of the pendulum to let us know what that answer is. So a lot of times when you see people use pendulums, that magnetic force that's being used to move the pendulum may sway the hand, may make the hand actually move a little bit, because you'll feel that magnetic force pulling, front to back or side to side or whatever circles, whatever calibration you have it set at. And it can be misleading to some people. They may think that you're the one actually moving it when it's really not you moving the pendulum, but it's the pendulum actually pulling your hand or your arm. So when someone, wants to have some doubt in your work, that is something that you can explain to them. Is that magnetic pull that sometimes moves the hand. And sometimes the stronger your energy is, then the stronger the magnetic pull of the pendulum when it's going back and forth or in its circle. Okay. Another thing you want to do is make sure you're comfortable when using the pendulum. Make sure you're comfortable. That also helps, keeps the hands from moving so freely. What I used to do in the very beginning is I used to place a towel, a folded towel on a table, and I used to rest my elbow so I can keep my arm as straight as possible and still as possible while the pendulum moves. So if you're using your pendulum for an extended amount of time, I would definitely recommend placing something very soft where you can rest your elbow and be able to keep your hand as still as possible for your pendulum. Another way I used to do it, I would take the pendulum, okay, and I would take my hand and I would place my elbow right on top of the hand, not the elbow itself, but right, above it. And I would place that on my hand and then laying this arm on the table, right? And this would help also stabilize my hand for the pendulum movement. Now, if you're not using a surface when using a pendulum, you can also place one hand underneath the pendulum while you have your other hand above. Try to keep your elbow low, okay? Because if you hold it up high, you'll start to notice after some time, you're gonna get a little bit of muscle failure in your shoulder, in your trap muscle. So, you can't use it too long in this manner. So you wanna drop your shoulders, you wanna drop them, keep them low, keep your elbow low, one hand underneath the pendulum, you got your other one above, and just relax your shoulders as much as possible when using your pendulum standing alone like so, okay? Okay, so before we get started in our calibration, I'm gonna ask everyone to decide which type of posture do you wanna have when using your pendulum right now, and go ahead and get yourself in that position. For class, I'm going to go ahead and use mine in the standalone position, not using any table or surface. And I'm going to again drop my shoulders, keep my elbows tucked in close. One hand is going to be under the pendulum. Now, I'm placing my hand under the pendulum because as energy goes down, it recycles back into my body, into my receiving hand. So my left hand is my receiving, my right hand is my giving hand. So as the pendulum is, my hand is below the pendulum, it allows me to circulate my energy to keep, good flow of energy throughout the session. Okay. Now your higher self, your own spirit, will calibrate the pendulum to what is yes or a no for you. I recommend at a minimum calibrating to get an answer for yes, no, and rephrase. Because if it's not a yes or a no, and it's going to be a rephrase, that means either we didn't ask the right question or we need to reword how we're asking the question, or maybe bring some clarity. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to ask my higher self to show me the motion of a yes. Show me what a yes looks like for me. So the pendulum goes back and forth, almost like a yes for me, like that. And you also notice that when your pendulum does this bobbing motion, where it kind of moves side to side, that means you know this answer is divinely guided. This answer is coming through your own higher self. If you notice that your pendulum movement is not giving you that bobble motion, then it may not be coming from you. There may be some interfering energy. So make sure before you get an answer, you see the bobbing motion first, and then it'll start to move with that bobbing motion. Okay. So now let's say you ask your higher self to show you a yes, and the direction that it moved, you did not like it. You didn't like that particular movement. So mine is back and forth. But now let's say, I want it to go counterclockwise when it's a yes. So now say higher self, this moment forward, do a counterclockwise when the answer is yes. Now show me a yes. Okay, so now instead of giving me a back and forth motion, now it's giving me a counterclockwise motion for a yes. So I can recalibrate what I want to see as a yes versus what my higher self had already predetermined for me. Okay, higher self, let's go back to the front and back for yes. Okay, now show me a yes. Good stuff. Okay, and you can stop. Now, so the pendulum to stop, but really I'm telling my higher self to stop because my higher self is just moving it. So because of this extension of myself, I have full control over this pendulum, okay? Just remember that. It's an extension of me. So I get to direct this energy when I want it to move a certain way. But when I'm asking a question, I don't want to direct the energy too much. I want to allow my spirit to do it, my higher self to do it, because if my ego do it, then I'm going to get an incorrect answer. I'm going to get an answer based on what I want it to be versus what it should be. So make sure to let your ego kind of take a back seat when it comes to working with your pendulum, so it doesn't messes with the energy or dictate the energy in a way that you don't want it to go, or in a way that it shouldn't go based on divine answer. Okay, so we got our yes. Now asking our higher self to show me a no. Show me a no, higher self. Okay, so I got the bobbling motion, and I'm also getting a diagonal swing to the right. A diagonal swing to the right. So for me, that's my no. Now, this is not what my higher self showed me initially when I first started using pendulums. It would give me a side to side motion. And for a yes, it would give me a counterclockwise. But I didn't like the transition because sometimes I had trouble trying to see if it was telling me a yes or no, because it was kind of making this little oval shape. So then I changed and I said, no, let's go front and back for yes. And then if it's a no, we're going to just go off to the right. And if I need to rephrase my question, we're going to diagonal to the left. I wanted to keep it very simple and make it easy for my higher self to be able to transition from one answer to another. This sometimes when we are doing divination, if you are doing it where you have a lot of time, it's best to ask a question, get the answer, and then stop the pendulum from moving, and then start with your next question. But once you get to doing this for so long, you'll find yourself being able to kind of do some rapid fire like questions, and you'll see the pendulum, it'll move. Let's say if it's saying a yes, and I ask my next question, it'll go off somewhere, and then it'll go to a no, or it'll go back to the yes, right? It can transition a little quicker while it's still swinging, because once it stops swinging, then it's going to require more energy to start swinging again. So I just go ahead and use the momentum with the pendulum when I'm asking my questions. Now, again, you want to wait until you're at a very, very comfortable level using your pendulums before you start to do rapid fire questions and your pendulum is moving in different answers while it's still swinging, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and unmic, and I wanna ask you all to, let's talk about your calibration. Were you able to get a yes, get a no, and also get you a rephrase or a maybe? And what about the cleansing part and the preparation part for the pendulum? Go ahead and unmic at this time and talk to me.
I got mine to do it. I never really thought of the bobbling motion that you were speaking about. I never even knew what that was when it did do it. So that was, amazing that you clarified what that meant, because I didn't know when it did that, what it was trying to tell me. So thank you.
You're welcome. Ashay. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else would like to share?
I got mine to do it as well.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
And I didn't know what that bobble motion meant either. So.
Oh, look, okay. So, okay, it's 2 confirmations. Good stuff. Now, did anyone change from what they seen? Like they didn't like the answer they got, so they wanted to recalibrate it to a different answer. Anybody experienced that tonight?
At first, my yes was going back and forth, but I wanted it to go to the right. So I changed it, and then it went to the right.
Oh, amazing. And it was easy, right? It was simple, right? Did anyone have any trouble with their pendulum moving?
No trouble with it moving, but I guess like since I've been doing it, it's pretty spot on of what I normally get. But to rephrase the question, I never thought of to ask it to rephrase. I would just ask the question in a different manner if it, I wasn't sure, it was just moving weird. But I guess that was the maybe. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Okay, what about did anybody feel a magnetic pull of your pendulum? Now, that magnetic pull will feel a little different depending on the weight of your pendulum too. So if you have a really light one, you might not feel too much of a pull, but did anybody experience that?
Mine was more heavier than normal because normally I don't feel the weight of it. But I guess doing all this, I felt like it was more heavier than it normally was.
Okay, so then now you see that it's more you're more connected to it, and especially when you prep it, yeah, it does makes it a lot easier to have that magnetic pull because there's no other energies messing with it. Good stuff. Okay. All right. Any questions before we go to the next part?
Nope.
All righty. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask everybody. Let's go ahead and mute back up, and we're gonna go to um, we're gonna deal with portals first with our pendulum, and then we'll go back to doing calibrations with the physical body as a pendulum. So in the last class, we was talking about portals, right? And we was talking about how you can use divination tools to open and close portals. So at the end of a session, whether it's a session dealing with, you asking questions about yourself, you asking questions on behalf of someone else, maybe doing a reading session, or just finding whatever answers that you need, especially with healing and cleansing, you want to close the portals between you and that session, that particular session, right? Same thing is with portals that just may be open, somewhere in the house or somewhere in your workspace. I was talking about how you can use your pendulums to close those portals with your intentions and your commands, right? So holding your pendulum again, just like you were before, you want to ask, what does, show you the motion of a portal closing. So higher self, what does it look like when a portal is closing? Okay, so I got a counterclockwise motion. So when I'm messing with portals, then it lets me know that that portal is closing. And then of course, if I know if it's opening, go ahead and show me. It's going to be the opposite, counterclockwise. Now, this is something that just coming to me right now, Spirit is telling me to visit that I don't think I've visited before. And that's using your pendulum to see the type of portal that you are dealing with. So usually clockwise is positive, counterclockwise is negative, which you're going to learn more about that too when we do the Dawson rod class next week. So if I came upon a portal that was negative, what would it look like? What would the motion of this pendulum do? Okay, so I'm getting a counterclockwise motion, but instead of getting a circle, I'm getting a counterclockwise oval movement, kind of like back and forth, but in a counterclockwise oval. If the portal that I'm upon at the time is positive, show me the motion for that. So same thing, I'm getting clockwise motion, but shaped in an oval instead of a complete circle. So now, let's say there's a portal. Let's do this. All right. I want you to ask your higher self to allow you to feel the strongest portal connected to you at this time. Allow you to feel the strongest portal that's connected to you at this time, right? And then we're going to ask, what type of portal is it? So higher self, the strongest portal connected to me at this time, what type is it? And there I go with the oval clockwise motion. So that means the strongest portal attached to me at this time is something positive. Now, higher self, show me a yes or no. Are there any portals attached to me that are negative? Okay, so I'm getting a yes. So I'm getting a yes, right? So now I'm going to ask my higher self to allow me to feel where those negative portals are attached to me at. This is using your clairsentience, which is the ability to feel energy around you. So for me, I feel them in my calves, in my lower calves, which is part of the root chakra. So I might need some cleansing done there. So using my pendulum, I'm gonna ask my higher self, I command my higher self to close and seal all negative portals attached to me, Ashe. Then the pendulum starts to go counterclockwise. Simultaneously, I can feel each space attached to me where a negative portal was, and I'm feeling those energies being lifted off of me. Now, another pre-command you can give your higher self is that once the command is complete, to stop the pendulum, that lets you know it is done. Beautiful, great, amazing. Now, once the pendulum stops, you may also start to see the bobbling of the pendulum. And that's just your higher self letting you know, that's it, we're good to go. Now, when doing your pendulum work, remember, it's not the pendulum that's necessarily doing the work, it's your higher self. The pendulum acts as a tool to give you a visual of what you're working with, what you're doing, what you're asking. It's a visual, but it's coming from you. Just keep that in mind. So this is why you notice that I'm not asking the pendulum to do the work. I'm asking my higher self to do the work so that I know the source of where the energy is coming from. So when you're done with a session, right, just like we were saying, you want to also do the same thing. I command my higher self to close all portals in this session or this previous session or this interaction, right? You want to ask your higher self to close those portals. And if you're in public and you don't have your pendulum, you can still do it by commanding your higher self to do so. And you just may feel it. You may just have to feel it and let your intuition let you know they're closed. And then you can always confirm when you're in a space where you can use a pendulum. All right, now let's talk about using a physical body as a pendulum. Now, I have played around with this for a couple of years until I figured out something that really works for me, right? Now, when using the physical body as a pendulum, instead of, swinging, for me, is more so of swaying, like a sway. And you can set it to where your body sways from left to right, or you can sway from front to back. That's probably what I have found to be the easiest. Now, the easiest way I have found as far as being able to tell without a shadow of a doubt what that movement is, because depending on how you're feeling, any sensations can be degraded. And you may have a hard time feeling if you're feeling a yes or a no on the body. So if I'm in a grocery store, right, and I'm standing in front of an item and I'm like, should I get this, right? Still got to ask the question the same way I would using a pendulum. Should I get this? My intentions, I say higher self, push me forward towards the item if I should get it. If I need to leave it, pull me back from it. So I then allow my feet to be planted on the ground. And I know if I go in a direction, whichever part of my feet that lifts up tells me that, okay, yeah, I'm being pushed in the right direction, whether it's forward or backwards. So if it's something I should get, I'll lean forward. And if my heels come off the ground, I know that that was a push, that was a force that pushed me in that direction. Same thing is to pull me away. I feel my toes lift off the ground, slightly almost losing balance, but not too much. You're not gonna fall, but it may kind of feel like you are. But again, that's how you know also that it's a divine answer. So I'll go back and then maybe stumble just a little bit, or maybe take a couple of steps back. That lets me know that it's a no, right? So an easy way to test this is just like you would do with your pendulum. You're standing up and you're saying, okay, if I should get this item, push me forward towards it. And you want to, again, move the ego and allow the spirit to do the work. Loosen your body and let it move as it wants, right? Just let it move on its own. You want to be loose. Don't stiffen up, loosen up, let it move on its own. If I say, okay, higher self, if I don't need this, go ahead and pull me back from this. Again, let your body move naturally. Don't force it. Just let it move naturally. Okay? Can you do this sitting down? Yes. When doing this sitting down, you're going to feel a lot more energy being pulled, okay? It requires a lot more energy because it's a shorter surface from your head down to your waist for you to be able to move. When you're standing, in this case, when you're standing, it's easy to level, energy in one direction versus the other because of the ball of your feet, how they roll. So keep that in mind when determining if you want to do it standing up or sitting down. Now, again, you can do left and right. You say, okay, if it's a yes, pull me to the left. Again, it's going to require a little bit more energy, but basically you want to allow energy to kind of lean you over to that area, to that side. And if it's a no, pull me to the right. And again, you have to loosen up, remove your ego, and let yourself be naturally pulled to that side, okay? You have to really be in tune with your body. You have to really be relaxed, okay? And remember, move the ego. Let the spirit do the work. Don't try to force it. And that's how you'll be able to get your answers accurately. Okay, now, another thing I just want to show you before we go is we're going to ground again, and you can use your pendulum when grounding. So, hold my pendulum with intentions. I command my higher self to ground me to the earth, Ashe. Okay, bobbling motion, clockwise motion. I can feel my legs tingling. And you notice as the more I ground, the wider the rotation of the pendulum. I notice the speed of the pendulum starts to pick up the more I ground. And again, in my physical body, I can feel my feet tingling, the lower legs tingling, and it's working its way all the way up to the top of my head. Now we got great movement on the pendulum, letting us know that we are definitely grounded. And one beauty that we're going to learn more when we get to using our divination tools with healing is that the crystal also plays a part in it as well. So as the crystal is spinning, as the pendulum is spinning, this clear quartz is also giving off its natural energies, which the clear quartz is the master healer crystal. So if I'm using the clear quartz and it's spinning clockwise, it's going to push off that clear quartz healing energy. And that's like an additional bonus you can get when using your pendulum to do your work. Okay. All right. Any questions so far about calibrating the physical body and using the pendulum to ground and close portals? Go ahead and come off your mic.
I never knew you could use your body for.
Yeah. One of the things that I learned very early on is that the physical body is our first divination tool. Before we pick up any divination tool, it's our physical body that the answers go through first. And then the divination tool, just a manifestation or a visual of that answer. But, you know, just like you're saying, I couldn't always have my pendulum out in public, you know, people judge, right? And then there's times that you don't want your pendulum around other people because of their energies. So I was like, okay, I got to figure out another way to receive these pendulum-like answers when I'm not in a space where I can use my pendulum. And that's what it started with. It started with me getting pressure in the back of the head for a no and pressure in my right ear for a yes. But that feeling in my ear, it would hurt a little bit after so much time. So then I asked my higher self to show me another way to receive an answer by using the body as a pendulum. And then that's how I learned about, you know, leaning forward if it's a yes and being pulled back if it's a no. It's a really dope way to confirm in public, you know, before you do something, before you get something, before you sign something. It's a really good way to you know, should I sign this contract? You know, get pulled back. Like, I'm gonna go and pass on this, y'all. You know, so it works really good. Were you able to actually stand up and give it a try?
What you say that it had messed up?
Oh, I was asking if you were able to actually stand up and give it a try to feel your body rock forward or backwards.
That's crazy. Every time you talk, it mess up. Every single time.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Were you able to stand up and rock forward and back to see
Oh
what
no,
like?
I was doing it sitting down.
Okay, okay. And you were able to feel it that way?
Yeah.
Dope. Okay, good stuff. Thank you for sharing that with us. Appreciate you.
For me, I guess it was a lot of energy for my body to rock forward. So for me, like my head would tilt to the left or the right. It was like more like my head would go side to side instead of like my whole body moving forward or backward when I was sitting down.
Oh, that's pretty dope. I hadn't thought
Yeah.
about that, about the you know, just the head itself. You know, you just so you're saying your head just goes over to the left or just goes over to the right?
It was like a lot less energy when I was trying to move my body forward. It would be like it was like a pulling feeling. I guess it would just make me more tired. So it just went to my head naturally. It was like, okay, just do this with the head because it's less energy for you. So I guess I'm tired as well.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. It's not a bad thing to adopt, especially when sitting down. I like to try myself, and maybe if anyone else like to try as well. So you're saying, okay, if it's so for me, I'll just say if it's a yes, pull me to the left, pull my head to the left. Oh yeah, that is. Even if it's just a slight motion, you can still feel it.
Yeah, it's a lot less energy.
Yeah. Okay. If it's a no, pull my head to the right. Yeah, you can definitely feel it. Oh, wow. Pretty dope. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
Yeah. So I hope anyone else who may want to adopt that, there you go. That's another method that you can use. Okay. Anyone else want to share what they felt during the grounding or closing the portals?
When I was grounding, it was, my pendulum was going really, really crazy. I had to kind of lift it up a little bit because it was kind of, I guess, hitting my hand a little bit. So it was going really crazy when I was grounding. So I never felt that before. I would feel a lot of energy going through my legs, but um, it was just going really crazy. I was like, all right, stop. And then it was just doing the bobbling. So it was really amazing to
Oh, wow.
use the pendulum to do that, to, I guess, to have that clarification that it's actually working. Well, I felt it, but using the pendulum, it was just really wild for me.
Yeah. Did you notice it was stronger when using the pendulum?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Yeah. What I learned with that was that using the pendulum, it kind of takes your mind off of everything else because your focus is here on the pendulum. And so because your focus is there and your intentions are there, then it's like it's a stronger reaction because there's no interference that's bothering. It's just like boom, just straight grounding. And so I do notice that sometimes when you do certain work, it's good to use the divination tool just to help you with concentration and focus. So that energy is like focused exactly where you want it versus sometimes when we're just doing it with our third eye or just doing it with our intentions, sometimes we can still be distracted. But it's kind of hard to get distracted when you're watching that pendulum move, right? So
Absolutely. I did close my eyes when I was doing it. I don't know, I was led to close my eyes, but
mhm.
then I felt the energy and it was just going really wild. I would say that's my hell yes answer or the hell no answer. It was
Right.
just going crazy when I was closing my eyes. And I guess it was more, there was no distractions because my mind, I guess, was feeling it and it was just really focused. So I'm definitely
Yeah.
going to keep using it because it does help.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah. There's many times I've closed my eyes most of the time when I feel my ego creeping in, I close my
Mhm.
eyes so I can like not, affect the movement of it consciously and let my higher self just keep doing it. So yeah, I completely understand why you would be led to close your eyes. Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
Um, and one more for anyone here. Anyone feel any energies when you were closing the portals with the pendulum?
I did. I felt it. It was actually pretty cool. That was the first time I like closed the portals that were attached to me.
Hmm.
The strongest portal was positive, but when I asked that I have negative portals attached to me, I got a yes. And
Okay.
then I said to close them, right? And then it had went into the exact motion that it showed me it would do for closing portals, because I actually had never set a specific motion and showing me how it would do to close a portal or open one. So that was cool. That was something new that I learned tonight. But yes, I felt the energy like come off several places in my body, but the most intense was like off my back.
Oh, oh wow. Did it is it a place where you've been having any type of discomfort before?
Oh yeah. There's several areas in my back that gives me discomfort. So yeah, definitely.
Okay. So hopefully that definitely helps with that discomfort now that those portals are closed. Not any energies like feeding into them. Okay.
Yes. I look forward to that.
Shay, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you. Okay. So y'all, this is gonna conclude our class. We want to thank the divine, thank our angels, divine creator, spirit guides and guardians, our entire divine support team for coming in and assisting us. Thank you all for being open and ready for class and being able to share some of the experiences that you're feeling and seeing during this session. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect myself from the session and close all the portals in the session at this time, Ashe. So as you all are watching this, you should start to feel closing of those portals, the releasing of the energies between us so that we can be free to go about without holding on to each other's energies with open portals. Y'all have a good one, and I'll see you in the next class. Have a good one.